All right. We are now live. We're live now. Let me see how I sound. Oh, matter of fact, I'll test it. All right. We. Can anybody hear me? Hello, hello. Let's see if it sounds good. Anybody hear me? Hello. Okay, we're all set, and we look like we're live. All right. Welcome again to another continue reading. This is titled Chapter 5. And this is The Endangered Black Family in chapter, actually, The Endangered Black Family in the 21st Century, Chapter 5. And the subject we will be covering today is the successful Black woman man problem. I am known as Zero Ends here. I want to welcome everybody here that will be listening in and going back to playback. Welcome, welcome, and welcome. This right here is gonna probably be just one chapter. We'll see how it goes. And one thing I will say before anything else is that this is it's not really a long book. Now that I think about it, this book is mostly maybe 200 pages long on the average. And right now, Nathan Julius Hare publications, and I'm probably gonna find all the links and post it. I'm not sure if I'm going to purchase the rest of their books or present for future reference, because this is an educational channel. And when we deal with the information, I deal with my perspective going for the information as best as possible. But one thing I've noticed is when these two people have transitioned now for, I don't know how long they've been gone. They've been gone for a long time. Matter of fact, I ain't gonna waste time. I'll do it later. But what I've noticed now, a lot of good authors that wrote books about psychology or relations or the experience from the non-white perspective, I've noticed that majority of the material works are being very much overpriced. Now, the reason why this is, I don't know. I can't give you a definite answer to that, to be honest with y'all. I know one thing, that when you accelerate a certain price of a book, is usually to keep people that are tempted or want to buy the information for more of an affordable price, to price them out from getting the information. It comes with a territory with a lot of information put out here that's whether relative, good, or bad. So keep in mind, when a book is a certain price, it's not because the information is valuable, but it's just to price out because it is somewhat of a rare commodity. Especially the older the book was written, the more it can be expensive if it's still in print. So a lot of information that you'll know if you try research through either Amazon or AB Books or all those other publications, whether the physical copy or the digital copy, you will find that some of the books price range will vary depending on what they have available and its demand. So keep that in mind. So now, before we begin, I'm going to do a little last minute checkup and then we'll get into it. Price range will vary depending on what they have available and its demand. So keep that in mind. So now, before we begin, I'm going to do a little last minute checkup and then we'll get into it. Price range will vary depending on what they have available and its demand. So keep that in mind. So now, before we begin, I'm going to do a little last minute checkup. All right, everybody. It looked like I sent out and checked everything, so everything's good. So let us begin. We do have a lot to cover. So let me make sure everything's. Yep, we could begin. All right, yeah, it's time. Okay. The successful black woman and man problem. Where do we begin to tell the story of the heartaches and the suffering that can sometimes derive from the conflict cutting against the grain of patriarchy between the black woman who feels that she is on the way up in the economic world and the black male who may, for whatever reason, is any given moment, find himself still flattering along the way, or what it going down. In the past, Their struggles has been mislabeled, one between the black matriarchy and more recently the black macho, when in reality, as we know or we now know, the black macho is not the ultimate oppressor of black women, just as the black matriarchy was not the oppressor of the black man. But there is a thing going on between them, between their two symbolic strains, which we should come to know more about, although decently by some less margin or mains, or amalgamate of names. Once the black male and the black female have begun or better understand the fact that they exist under a common oppressor and all is merits manifestation, they can move on to halt their currently excessive displacement of their rage unto one another. From there, they may go on the heels and the broken spirits of noble race. Not that there are no other potential allies. It is only that we black men and women are held together by a biohistorical imperative. The future of black females is accordant with the black male, just as the future of black male must be with the black female. The white female also attests to a common oppressor, but the white woman sleeps with her enemy, particularly European man or white man. For better or worse, we must never forget her oppressor is her father, her son, her husband, her lover, and they are bound by the umbilical cord of biological itself, or biology itself. Keep that in mind, people. And keep this in mind. The African man, the ADOS, the black man. Every time you make that decision, you spread those vagina wide open to non-black women, Caucasoid, Asian, which Asian women is not race, but that's another story. You are making a firm decision to release, and you are potentially creating the same problem that you whine about. So, y'all know that already. Why then does there arise between the black male and black female such intense and complex psychosociological welfare? Why does the black male so often feel so deeply threatened by a successful black female? The answer is these questions are so crucial as those to the source of the much discussed but not fully understood attraction between the white female and the black male, and these are the connection, for they are tied to very essentials of femininity and masculinity, orchestrated more by the black condition. It is anybody's fault outside of the economic of oppression and the institution genocide, the social decay of an over-industrialized society, which we are beyond industrialization. We are now moving in the stage of digital/technological age, where we live in technology now. But the fact remains that the successful black woman plight is magnified by the fact that she must marry beneath her station in life more often even than a successful man ordinarily would. This setup and eradicates and punish sets of intertherapeutical or intertherapeutic problems. By now, of course, we are including in marriage any continual commitment involving a common abide without a marriage license. This predestined appearing to manifest itself more stringently the harder she tries to adapt to her society. For instance, she is more likely to marry than the successful white female, but she also is more destined to see her marriage fall apart. She has a higher number of years of school completely, but the higher her education, the less the supplemental to her income derives from her mate. She even has fewer children, postponing, imitating, gratification, perhaps too well, but the more children she has, the more her marriage is going to be broken. Which is a very deep analogy, which I never thought about that. But usually, we all know that all marriage, hold on. The marriage, I think one thing with this is that is everybody knows that the real cause of actual agreement marriage is not just infidelity, cheating, but finance. So usually in this economy, because things are getting more expensive and children do cost money, that it does put a potential strain. Well, it is a strain, but like I said, you have to carry lineage as a man, and you're a woman, you want to be a mother, that it can cause a little strain into the relationship. I think one thing that I've noticed that usually with any relationship, either marriage or long term, they really start to end and falter once they start procreating, have a child. But besides that, most relationships are fine before the baby comes into the picture. Once the baby is here, that's when things change. And because the laws that's put here in this country, that does favor women more. That a lot of women find an easy exit after having a baby. And for a reason, you have to look into more for yourself. But let's move on. For she will find that it takes two or two to tango, and that the struggle of synchronizing her career and her mating, she is one of a few within the human race that is not so given to the art of the role playing. Cunning white females will think nothing of playing one role of the job, and another Wally difference after 5. For historical, her world has been more separate. The black woman who long has had to be too often both mother and daughter, or mother and father to her family, which that's a choice. I just want you to quote me. That's a choice. You don't have to be mother and father. You choose to be both. No one's tying you under a tree saying you must do both. So that I want to correct. But goes into the marketplace more out of a sense of necessity. She leaves behind a portion of her heart and her interest there, her sense of self-importance when she gets or where she goes home, and this plays a heavy part in her overall life and her emotionality. The white woman involvement in the marketplace, despite the rhetoric of the vocal feminists seeking outcome, or what they call unconsciously, to rationalize the demand for two income in today's economy, in comparative, more of a luxury. She goes into the marketplace to find her self-identity, or she wished to learn to feel a higher sense of self-worth, but her heart is in the home, the place that historically has been her heaven. Our studies show that the black woman is proud of her strength, of her historical resolve and resiliency in the service of her family. Whenever she frequently had to leave the home or otherwise to be the backbone in her many times of storm, but in her relations with her man, she fears that this very strength imposed upon her unsolicited will someday be the death of her. She would give her right arm instead to have a strong black man to instead of besides her or stand beside her. But she knows from observation and past experience that these are currently in short supply, The black male, too, is a secret admirer of the black woman's strength, and he will privately tell an inquiring stranger that he is grateful for her tenacity, that she is still his woman. He will testify that she has been a shelter, a steady, leaning post. He will confess that he knows deep down that he got a good woman. And he will say all of the grateful things he may frequently find hard to express to her. In secret, he looks up to the black woman, admires her strength, but he also fears and resents it. Part of his resentment grows out of patriarchal norms and values, but also emanates from the fact that the woman he loves in adult life, his consummate lover, and the one, in a sense, he has been preparing all of his life to meet, is of the exact same sex as was his mother. Thus, many of his unresolved conflict with his mother, who once kept his hand out of the cookie jar, extending and withholding pleasures, will now be fought out with his mate. This is true, of course, to some degree of any male, but because the black mother is so often, in effect, both mother and father, and a tool set involved in greater degrees between the black man and the black woman as they grow into adulthood, and this is transmitted from one generation to the next through the cake of culture. Moreover, it is what it called fame inflated and distorted by white standards of juggling each other, and the notion so well internalized from white racists and the white feminist agenda. This is not to say that there is not much that is very good in their relationship, but not without the evidences of that derives directly from their social situation. For her part, there is within the aggressive woman this longing to subdue a man, but once having succeeded losing interest in him, a hardened man came into treatment one day crying, treating suicide or threatening suicide, and his wife didn't take him back. The more he pleaded, whipping down by his past misconduct, the more she invades him. Unknowing to him, his wife was saying that she likes a man who dominates her and that her new boyfriend dominates her. What they call psychoanalytics has even claimed to find what they call a feminine, what they call missionary among peasant women, and there is the notion in Ghetto Street that many women don't feel right unless they are getting their so and so kicking sometimes. And it is true that many a woman has learned as a child watching her mother stormy love life that a love that is deep is never still. Within the repertoire of the street pimp, in fact, is the almost routine adoption of the kick and kiss principle, wherein the alien or the alternating a means of mistreatment and a syrup sweetness as part of his mind games, what they call machination, on the wall of the Black Culture Center at the University of Washington is an all-engulfing painted mural of a black woman accompanied only by the words, bear a pain, or what they call bear a pain. Without a strong black male, many would now agree there can be no strong black race in a patriarchal society. The black woman was or has always known this some initiative level, but because she is not a social analysis, she is inclined to infantilize the black male, perhaps too readily eternalizing white society and demarginalizing of him. And she believes, perhaps correctly, that it is time now for the black male to make a change to clean up his act. She will accordingly wish to often to play Holy Mother to concretize the goodness of the what they call P.H.D. theology. It's a big word. Or they call P.H.D. theology. Strong black woman to herself as an individual while incorporating her individual black mate into a generalized categories of naughty infant. The black woman and the black man thus encounter each other with two contrary images of themselves and each other. Expect the worst and naughty infants and primitive mothers. Increasingly, they will feel that aside from their own perspective, there is no other story to be told. Though low-income women complain more about problems in their treatment by their mates, black women of all classes tend more to emphasize satisfaction in their sexual relations and dissatisfaction in their interpersonal relations with their mates. The reason is that most black persons are not far removed in time and association from the low-income stratus, so that it is true that much of what a frequently described as black is really a characterized of the low-income stratus, at the same time as it is also true that what is true of the lower stratus in extreme degree denotes a quality or favor that permeates the oppressed black condition. It is a matter of degrees. Such an instance as we shall see is what we may call the Superfly syndrome. As y'all know, Superfly came out in 1972. If you want to know what that movie or the one of the few black exploitation movies, Google it, YouTube it. It is there. Although Superfly embodies what we are calling the Superfly syndrome, he is only one manifestation, for it includes a broad range of young black males who block from the avenues to social potency, overcompensating and conspicuously cultivating the ability to control and dominate females and their sexual relationships. The syndrome is not restricted merely to individuals who adopt the clothing and mannerism and re-mimicizing of the movie screen hero, Superfly, or the heap cat, or jitterbug, or yesteryear. The Superfly syndrome is a prevalence, as the Superfly character in pure array is rare. While it is true that whites have Don Juan and Randolph Valentino, neither achieved the stature of a collective social type in the manners of the ghettos. Superfly neither was a pervasive. Superfly syndrome derives quite understandably from the young black male uncertainty about his adult role within the experience of a broken patriarchy. Whether or not he has a broken home, if the young boy father has not played his fatherly role sufficiently in accordance with his what they call normative expectation, the boy may fall to make the proper identification. Thus, the Superfly syndrome grows out of the social situation of oppression, is learning or acquiring, but the young black male may also take it as a model and compensation for the delusionment he feels for institutionalizing norms of masculinity to which his access is restricted. Studies show that the young black male, for instance, exhibits a high level of heterosexual interactions of or at adolescence at the same time as his disdain for marriage increased with his age and emerged recognition of marriage as stymied by his relative access to occupational and economic life chance. The compensatory validation of superstud aspects of the masculine role comes fully into view. Ironically, if not paradoxically, this character type, though based on a super sexist approach to women and sometimes a pathological hatred in an attractive type among many young ghetto women, this attraction for the wayward male is also presented among white women and is thought to be fairly universal, but it is nowhere so pervasive and admired as within the urban black ghettos, where it is product of the low level of male attainment. In the more conventional social economic aspects of manhood and society, but in the adolescent culture of the urban ghettos, the superfly character type is the most conspicuous male ideal. He possesses or strives to exhibit a possession of a bad personality and super ability to rap. Walking means looking clean, attitude to strut and get over with whatever he may viciously call a young woman. He longed for the flashy clothes, that nice little pink and rainbow color, that homoerotic type style, how those dudes wear the pimp colors back then, the bell bottoms, the nice red colors, the scarf. They have that certain hat, that big hat, and they do that walk when they do. That's what they're talking about. The big new car, the ready cash his mentor appears to derive from the ultimate economic of the what they call gestude. Above all, he stresses the importance of controlling the women in his life. For the pimp, the aptitude of the superfly concentrate of the ghetto male psycho-social sexual style. This ability to manage women becomes his level or livelihood. The pimp has simply reversed the traditional roles of men and women, and the roles too often deny him. He will reject those roles that rejects him. He will be kept like a woman. He is kept by a woman. He is the pretty one, the prize sex objects who has sex or who uses sex as weapon of love. By superfly, he means to capture sometimes of the favorite, but he also means to encompass a wide range of specific types. Besides the pimp, the jitterbug, the street nigger, cool breeze, as well as the flattener strain that nubs off, and even many square black middle class males personalities. The pimp whore liaison merely represents the concoct of the very real social phenomenon. The pimp, the superfly, the merely pathetic social pedally of a feminine abuse played out by men without social power, men who feel implied to derive their sense of power and importance in their relationship with their women almost exclusively within the sexual encounters. Let me see, where am I? Okay. So it is that faced with the enduring hardship of the superfly syndrome, many women ambivalently relinquish altogether the struggles to be desired sex objects and to experience social harmony and social sexual satisfaction with men. They exhibit a kind of sexual anxiety or anxiety, according to Greer and Corbs in Black Rage. It may be that after a brief struggle, a Black woman feels that femininity, as it is defined in these times, is something she cannot achieve. Rather than having her heart broken every day, she relinquishes the struggle and diverts her interest elsewhere. She has deemed some of the intensely personal satisfaction she might have received as an honored and desirable sex object. I'm so doing, she accommodates to the reality of the broken patriarchy, which the successful Black male is in a position to exploit. It is not surprising, therefore, that despite her conscious rejection of the superfly as a cultural ideal, the Black female is not infrequently drawn to him, finding him curiously attractive, interesting, and she will often unconsciously collaborate in spoiling and priming her own son for the superfly role out of fear that their manhood will be crippled. Damn, that's deep. I know. Actually, I do know some women, and men might back me on this. A lot of women in the so-called ADOS African or community have done this with their own sons. I think one thing that will prosper or do a radical change for the conditions of Black people in Thailand is the mothers gotta find ways to bring the actual talents to their boys, and they're going to have to stop crippling in certain fashion of either demeaning them and have them mal-educated in regards to keeping up to the basics from reading, writing, and arithmetic. Would also put them into positions, I don't know if I say power, but positions of how to gain the best of their abilities as young boys trying to develop as men. I think this is one of many steps women that are raising children, especially boys, by themselves, they need to do. Look at them. The proud old folks will say of the little boy, he's going to be a heartbreaker. And they all laugh and think that it is good. As middle-class Black women grow into maturity, they tend to turn their attention towards more mobile and therefore more conventional Black males. By this time, the square male too has learned much from the youthful rival and a printed perhaps too often to exploit his newfound advantage of a successful Black male in short supply. On the theory that mentally health satisfies or statistically are a reflection of psychosocial conditions, we examine out of patients figures complied by the National Institute of Mental Health. Not only did we find that Black males violate at some stage of life the tendency of females to seek outpatient mental health care in greater abundance than males. When measured against psychoanalysis, Eriksson, 8 stage of man, their mental health usage rise in interest points. The Black male mental health outpatients figures mushrooms at a different stage than is the case of the Black female. The Black female problems are apparently compound most during the young adulthood stage, when the most crucial personal challenge is to male is satisfactory. Love relations to the Eriksson vendings to manage the dilemma of attaining social intimacy and maturity versus isolation. In other words, the Black woman shows the strains of the biocultural feminine goal of achieving a satisfactory relationship to be chosen by an acceptable male, to be validated, and the need to feel desired and desirable. At the point of young adulthood, the Black woman finds that many of her most eligible males are locked in prison, away in the military, or elsewhere on the treadmill that depletes his numerical supply. The Black male mental health problem, by contrast, skyrocket as he is approaching full maturity on the thresholds of middle age, when, according to psychoanalysis theory, the human challenge is to make a contribution to society equal to his potential. At this point, the Black male has begun to suspect that his relative-in-law are right, but he just might not be able to get it all together, that he is not readily making it. His pain, his greatest thereby in the male need for social economic position or potency within the hierarchy of a patriarchal society. Whoever this difference between the Black male and the Black female has its beginning in early childhood, when the Black male may start a perceive his adulthood role of mainly protector and provider for his family unit as less realistic than the Black female. What they call nurturing substance roles. The fact that his father is frequently not present as a natural model, or at present is what it calls stymied, and his chance to achieve the place expecting of a man adds to the perception of the absence that the traditional masculine role in part beyond their social economic grasp. Compound this with the fact that he is more exposed to the culture of risk-taking, of gambling and bravadoing, of impulsivity, and the masculine element of daring and adventurism that so often takes the place of masculine financial privilege in the ghettos. But this difference in socialization of males and females is virtually universal, merely compound for Blacks. Not that the Black male isn't socialized into society goals of successful, it is only that it may be inclined in the absence of accessing realistic avenues to successful to develop fantastic and unreal schemes such as hazardous business dreams, clinging to long to unrelinquished hopes of superstardom as a professional athlete or a jazz musician, what we might call the dream scheme complex that has the potential for obstructing and preempting his devotion to the necessary day-to-day endeavors in the mundane world and routinized occupying spheres. It also adds to oppression of his personal adequacy of instability and what they call insincerity, reinforcing the legitimacy of the score and complaint of the accusation hurled his way by in-laws, his mate, and his hammer of social options or social opinions. Yet all the while, the Black male may be working overtime, struggling at a sometimes say, but getting nowhere fast, showing little in the way, achievement benefiting his capacity, falling down the scale of occupying mobility, while losing and quitting a variety of covert jobs or conventing jobs. He sees his problem as result from the racist system in such a way as to eternalize every portion of the responsibility for his fate away from himself. Conditions in the masculine culture of war and war games He is more inclined by comparison to the black female to be at war in combat with the system that rejects him. What happens, Booker? His mate may wonder when he suddenly leaves his job. They made me mad. It all that he may say. A man is not taught to tolerate authority figures who mistreat him. Doesn't know the female's silence, what it calls suffering, her capacity for emotional pain. At the same time, it is he who is the primary threat to the white male oppressor. And this is a social reality that will too often allude to the successful black woman in these times in feminism, or times of feminism. The successful black woman will prevail upon the flattering black male to face up to accept the economic and political realities in which he lives, and so he may come to feel himself at war with the system and his mate, regarding them both as units somehow against him. All the rage that he is powerless to enact upon the system, he will rain on her, for she emerged in his mind as a appendage to the white man and his sister. And that concludes chapter 5. Woo! Wow, amazing. You know, one thing I have to respect Julius and Nathan Hare, because they are both two psychologists, some in education, some in the field itself. They prove importance to today's environment and in which the black people in general live in today. And one thing is certain, that your struggles as a black man is not going to end. And it will never end. And the reason why I'm telling you this, because you live in an environment that is totally constructed for your, I would say, your self-demise. You are used for commodity, to build and prop other groups to make them rich, and you are not doing the same as a black male group. And my thing, because you take your frustrations on the woman, is understandable, but at the end it will not solve your problem as a man in this Western world you live in. It goes back again when I hear a lot of men. I understand the complaints about the women, and the women have certain complaints about not only the men, but they should have complaints about themselves, because they too are not even equipped, or I would say bring nothing tangible to the black man today, unfortunately. But it's going to come to a point as a race, a nation. You and her are not separate, but you work as a collective. You have to stop with these devices amongst the genders. You will, and you're going to. Because moving forward in the 21st century, it does not look good. I'm not saying there will not be less black people. There won't be a lot, I'll tell you that much. So right now, moving forward in the next, let's say 80 years, going for the 21st century, what has been revealed back in the 80s has shown its milky head today. And at the end of the day, it's going to come down to, what do you want as people? As a black man, you should know what you want and try to pursue it the best you can. And as a black woman, you should not only know what you want, but you have to conduct yourself like a lady, woman, in this very harsh environment for your own self-preservation. So, So I'll end it there on that note. If y'all like what y'all hear, there is plenty of the playback up far. We have gone through 5 chapters now. So if you miss anything, please go back to this recording. You can also leave your comment, whatever you want to leave, that you find the information useful. Zero ends will appreciate it. But that's all I'm gonna say. Thank you again for listening to the stream. Be on the lookout for chapter 6 of what is titled The Endangered Black Family in the 21st Century. Take care now. Goodbye.